So my name is Matthew Schmidt, and I am the CTO of DZone. We're a technology publishing company, and now we're branching out into being a software publishing company. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Atlassian Plugin platform, I guess, which was formerly the Atlassian Plugin framework, to be able to build your own plugin platform for your own applications, primarily web applications. How many of you guys are familiar with the Atlassian Plugin platform? Good. So are you guys using them to provide plugin functionality for your own applications to not have to mess with all the nastiness of OSGI and Spring DM on your own? Great. So that's exactly what we were doing, right? And so as I said, DZone is a leading publisher for developer topics. We cover things like Java, Agile, DevOps, Cloud, pretty much everything that you can imagine. We also are building an enterprise-class question and answer platform called Qato. So basically, if you can imagine Quora or Stack Overflow or any of the Yahoo Answers, we are allowing companies to take that behind the firewall or publicly facing to provide support communities for their customers. So we needed to be able to provide plugins and didn't want to recreate the wheel. So OSGI is quite possibly the most complex framework available for Java today. And I don't think anybody would question that right now. So why did we go with Atlassian plugins, right? First, why reinvent the wheel, right? We looked and looked and looked, and we said, okay, we're going to use OSGI. Spring DM seems like a great thing. We can do it that way. And then it turns out somebody already did it. Right? We were familiar with Atlassian's products. We've been using them. We love their plugins, and we love how easy it is to use them. I said, God, I really wish I could just use that. Well, it turns out that they had broken that out. So we decided, okay, we're going to try and integrate it. At the time, there was zero documentation on how to do that. Right? So it was very, very complicated. Our guys had to figure out how to make it work. And then on top of that, how do you make it work when you're talking about a multi-tenant system? Right? At the time, Atlassian Plugin Platform had no support for multi-tenancy. So how do you keep things separated as you begin to deploy plugins and you begin to have different customers and keep things from conflicting and blowing up and everything, right? So we found that the Atlassian plugin system was a great abstraction of Spring DM and Apache Felix and OSGI in general. It really hid away all of the nastiness that comes with OSGI. You don't have to worry about adjusting your jar files. You don't have to worry about XML for your Spring configuration. Atlassian plugin just bundles all that up and things are good to go, right? So it's Java development the way it's meant to be. You don't have to restart your application, right? So when you're building with a plugin module, you can write your plugin, deploy it, and the application will just pick it up. So if you build from the start using the plugin model, everything will be much smoother. You can speed up your development cycle, less compile cycles, and that increases developer productivity. Another benefit of the Atlassian plugin platform was that it's proven in the enterprise. Right? We were building an enterprise product, and we knew that Atlassian plugins were proven. Atlassian has done a great job selling to businesses and to enterprises, and there's a lot of people who know how to build plugins. And if we're able to leverage even just a little bit of that knowledge, right, we felt that that would give us a leg up and allow developers to be able to adopt our platform as businesses began to use our technology. And finally, we felt like it'd be easier to collaborate with other people using Atlassian products. Right? Imagine that you have your support community, your Q&A community, and either internally or externally, you're able to reference information from a Confluence wiki from a question as an answer, right? So instead of having to rewrite everything, you're able to just reference that and pull it up right out of the wiki. So the Atlassian platform to Qato, obviously we had to make some changes, right? Because Atlassian's products were not all that well documented at the time, obviously Confluence plugins and Jira plugins and Bamboo plugins and everything, they're really well documented, right? But the plugin platform itself at the time was not. So we were really feeling around in the dark a lot. And it was not meant for there to be multiple copies of the plugin in one installation. So it's meant for your app has your customer, not your app has 1,000 customers, right? So really we had to work it so that it could be scoped for the site that you're on and for the tenant that you're on, and keep things from conflicting in ways that would do nasty things to your application, right? So sites needed to be able to enable different plugins. Tenants needed to be able to specify which ones they wanted to install. Admins needed to be able to install things from a system admin perspective. And the plugins needed to be able to not affect the other tenants. Things like templates, right, and internationalization files. Those things all get added into one big mess of translations, and we didn't want them getting picked up on a cross-site basis, right? So we had to be able to separate those out. Excuse me. So what did we change? To handle this, one of our developers said, all right, well, what happens if we just listen for these plugin events and dump them into our scoped maps, right? So we decided to listen for all the different events that Atlassian sends when plugins are enabled or disabled and dump those into a scoped map. It's not the most memory efficient way of doing things, but it allowed us to control things in a way that kept things segmented, right? So depending on which site you hit, you get a different scope. And you can have different plugins enabled based on the site that you're on. Additionally, the Spring support inside of the plugin framework did not support all of the modern annotations for Spring. So there was some support for it, obviously, but we wanted to be able to have developers write plugins just like they were writing regular Spring beans. Right? So we added support for looking for the auto-wired annotation. Since we were leveraging Spring MVC, we also added the controller annotation, the request mapping, and some support for Spring security as well. So effectively, when you're writing a Qato plugin, you're able to write it just like a normal Spring bean with all the annotations, and when you deploy your plugin, those will get picked up and added to the proper handlers inside the application. And then additionally, we preferred FreeMarker for our theming, so we switched support from using Velocity to using FreeMarker. So essentially, the Atlassian plugin framework allowed DZone to quickly and easily add a plugin system to our new application, Qato. Without the Atlassian plugin framework, we would have spent months and months and months recreating the wheel. And in the end, it probably wouldn't have been as effective or as proven as what Atlassian has already done. So I think that even though there were some limitations, lack of documentation at the time and no multi-tenancy, the changes that we had to make were fairly minimal in the bigger scheme of things, and still allowed us to be able to provide a great platform using something that Atlassian had donated to the community.